two ago, I gave a talk on the concept of secular support networks, and I went through a whole lot of different organizations that are supporting the secular movement, but they're not out there in front hearing, protests or doing lawsuits and all that. And of course, I highlighted the group I founded, Recovering from Religion, quite a bit, but there's a lot of groups out there that I always encouraging you to volunteer, to donate to. And today we get to hear from one of those people, I'm proud to say, Gayle Jordan, who's the executive director now of the group that Recovering from Religion. And before I get into talking about Gayle, I'd like to ask, how many of you have been in some way involved in Recovering from Religion? As a volunteer, attended meetings? Look around. Probably a quarter of the people in this room have in some way, shape, or form been involved. And I already met a couple people I've never met before that have attended Recovering from Religion meetings. And I'm guessing you went to that meeting because you wanted to find people like mine. And you might not quite been ready to admit you didn't believe in God yet, but you wanted to talk to other people who had already made that journey. So that's what RR is all about, is helping people just figure it out. We're not about trying to convert anybody. But our speaker today, Gayle Jordan, hails from Middle Tennessee, Murfreesboro, close to Nashville, Tennessee, where I lived for 6 years, although I didn't know Gayle when I lived there. I met Gayle about 5 years ago at a little conference, I believe it was in Cincinnati, wasn't it, or Cleveland? Des Moines. Oh, Des Moines, yeah, Des Moines. a little conference called the American Atheist Convention. And she met J.T. Everhart at the same time. She informs me that she's never been the same since, meeting both of us at the same time. And I think it was J.T. that had the most profound effect on her, probably. Right, okay. Anyway, I was really impressed with Gayle and with her partner, Elliot. And we kind of became acquaintances and corresponded a little bit. And that was, in that 5 years or so, she decided, I think I'll go back to law school and get a law degree. And 3 years later, she's a lawyer, okay? I don't know how many people at the ripe old age of plus 50 go back to law school and get a law degree, but she did. And she did it online. And she passed the California bar the first time around. Nobody does it, yeah. So this is the kind of person that we're getting ready to hear. I didn't ask her three things that describe her or anything. I can just say, if you've ever tried to grab hold of a freight train going 60 mile an hour down the tracks, that's kind of like Gayle. When she hits the road, she's already going 60 miles an hour. So when late last year, the job opening for executive director of Recovering from Religion came open, we had 5 really qualified people apply for the job. We actually had more than that, but we narrowed it down to 5. And Gayle was one of those 5. And I was delighted to see she applied. And the board ultimately selected her as our new executive director. So as of January 1st, she took over. And the first thing we told Gayle is, we want to be listed on GuideStar. If you don't know what GuideStar is, it's kind of like a clearinghouse and rating system for nonprofits. So if you're a nonprofit and you want to get recognized for being open and transparent about your finances, about your mission, all that stuff, you want to be on GuideStar. And oh, by the way, we'd like to be gold. We'd like to be gold on GuideStar within 6 months to a year. We got on GuideStar in February, and we're gold in February. It took her less than 2 months to get us a gold GuideStar. Wow. So we are very, very proud to be a gold on GuideStar, among other things. But I'm not gonna encroach on what she's going to talk to us about today. I just want to say that we are very proud, very happy to have her as our executive director. But we also have a board member here, Susie. If you don't know Susie, she's come to all my parties. And just remember, Memorial Day party, my place, 21 hours of solid partying. And I'll bet Susie will be there to party with us anyway. So, with nothing further ado or whatever, come on up here, Gayle, and tell us about it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to coming to Oasis for the couple of years that you all have been meeting. Every time a friend of mine comes and reports back to me, it gets me excited all over again. Patrick Horst lives in Middle Tennessee. He came and spoke to you at some point. Mandisa in Atlanta spoke with you last weekend. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so looking forward to this. And we're going to do a PowerPoint, maybe? Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to tell you a lot about what's going on with recovering from religion, as Daryl said. We are at an exciting point in our lives, but it's kind of traditional that I give you a little bit of my perspective, a little bit of who I am and where I have come from. I am, as Daryl said, I'm going to get it out from in front of the screen. There we go. Thank you. As Daryl said, I live in the Middle Tennessee area. I have a little farm. I have longhorns and goats and cows and chickens and dogs and the whole thing. And I grew up in Georgia. My Baptist pedigree, my Southern Baptist pedigree goes back a long, long way. If you are willing, by a show of hands, can I see my Southern Baptist brothers and sisters? Yes, yes. If you see these folks with their hands up later, ask them if they would like a hug. They've worked hard to get here, and I don't mean geography. My Baptist pedigree goes long and deep. I was raised in a Baptist church. I married a Baptist man that I met at a Baptist conference center, and I had 4 little Baptist children, which, there they go. These children we were those people in church. We led every organization. Michelle, I understand the language dies slowly. So they were in every RAs, GAs, and Acteens and Mission Friends, and my then husband and I were involved in every place of leadership that we could. As you Southern Baptists know, there were some that were off limits to me because I'm a girl. But everything that I could do in my church, I did. And these children grew up in the church, and it was our social life. It was our community. It was everything. Right about now, you should be asking yourself, why does she just keep putting pictures of kids up on the screen? Well, I have 3 answers. Number 1, the obvious one, duh, because where else am I going to get 200 people to look at pictures of my kids? The second one is because I want you to see how close in age they are, because that's going to come relevant in just a minute. And the third reason is that my children are my story. As these 4 children grew, and they entered into teenagerhood, they all entered into the youth group at about the same time. There's only a year between all of them. So they all entered the youth group at the same time. And they came to their mom, and they said, "Mom, this doesn't sound right. The boat, and the animals, and Abraham, and the child, and more and more." And I said, "You know what, you're right. Those are good questions. Let's see if we can find some answers." I had always encouraged these children to be relentless in their pursuit of knowledge, in their pursuit of information. So we decided to look into this together. So we started inside the bubble. We went to our pastor, they went to their youth minister, they went to their Sunday school teachers, as did I, and we got the party line. There's just questions, there's just things we're not going to know, and God's ways are higher than our ways. Very unsatisfactory answers. So we decided to look outside the bubble. And when I get to this point in the story, everybody's head starts going like this because you know where it's going. You know exactly where this leads. As we dug deeper, we came back together, we would discuss, we would go read again, we would come back together, and over the course of their high school years, each according to their own personality, they worked it out. I was the tail end Charlie. The children, as they grew and as they began to leave for college, they came out from the dogma of religion and into the light of free thought. So jumping ahead, they're all 4 college-educated, brilliant, beautiful, healthy, free-thinking human beings managing their lives and living in the here and the now, for the moment. So that's my story, that's my perspective. Moving on now, I get to tell you a little bit about recovering from religion. As Daryl said, Daryl found Dr. Ray. When I speak to a group who's not familiar with Dr. Ray, I ask who has heard of Dr. Daryl Ray. So all of you are going to be able to raise your hands. If I could ask you to tell me what you know about Dr. Ray in 1 word, what would it be? There it is, sex. Daryl is the president of the governing board of Recovering from Religion. He's an author. He's a psychologist. None of those mean as much to him as being known as the sex guy. So when I give this talk in other places, he's the sex guy. It started in 2009 as an idea that there needed to be an organization that would help folks unpack the baggage, so to speak, that is associated with doubting and leaving one's faith. one's religion. So what started as an idea to today has grown into an enormous organization. There are so many things going on, so I'm going to try to highlight that. I know you all have a unique relationship with recovering from religion because Dr. Ray is here and it's in your area. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the programs, but then also the new things that are going on. We have 3 prongs, I call them prongs, of recovering from religion. First is this hotline project, and this is probably our most visible. The hotline project is exactly that. It's an 800 number, a toll-free number. It's actually 184, I doubt it, for folks to be able to call in. And before I tell you exactly what it is, let me tell you what it isn't. And it surprised me to hear this. It is not a deconversion process. That's not the objective. It's also not counseling. This is peer support. This is a compassionate listening ear. This is encouragement. This is understanding. This is a safe place to be able to ask one's questions. So the Hotline Project has only been launched for 1 year, and in that time we've helped hundreds of folks deal with the impact, the fallout of doubting one's faith. As you might expect, we are very protective of the identity of the folks who call into the hotline. So I'd like to share with you the transcripts. I'd like to share with you the recordings, and I can't do that. However, if you listen carefully toward the end of my talk, I'll tell you how you can do that. But as we find these phone calls occur, oftentimes the caller has had to carve out 5 or 10 or 12 or 15 minutes of privacy to be able to make this phone call. They don't want a spouse overhearing. They don't want a child walking into the room. They don't want an employer hearing. They're in their car in the parking lot at work because it's the only place that they feel that they can safely have this discussion about what's going on in their life and what feelings they're having. Because of that, we have felt the need to add a live chat feature to our hotline. So we've just had our soft launch for that. This allows you know what a live chat feature is. If you work with your bank or whatever institution, you'll see that when you log in, you can carry on the conversation online. That's what this is. So that's our most recent addition to the Hotline Project. The second prong of recovering from religion is what we call our Secular Therapist Project. That is just recently under the direction of Dr. Gayle Black. Daryl has been working on that project for years, and just recently we've had Dr. Gayle Black, who is a psychologist and a professor at Oklahoma Central University, or Central Oklahoma University, or Oklahoma Central University. This is kind of self-explanatory as well. This is a database of therapists, of anything that falls under the therapy umbrella. Social workers, marriage and family counselors, psychologists. They approach the Secular Therapy Project. They are vetted then by Dr. Lack and the professional staff to ascertain that they provide only evidence-based therapy. There's no, you gotta pray about this, you need to get right with Jesus, you need to go to your church. It's only evidence-based therapy, and then our clients come to the website. They're able to put in their geographic location and what their particular needs are, and then they're able to receive who in their area, who close by will be able to fill those needs. That's our Secular Therapist Project. We have about 270 secular therapists in our database, and we've responded to over 7,000 client requests for secular therapy. So that's our project. We're also having a brand new launch of the website. So it's recoveringfromreligion.org, and you can click on the Secular Therapy Project and go see, we're relaunching that website, so there'll be some new features to come with that. The third prong, and this is an exciting time for us, the third prong of recovering from religion is our support group project. This is, one of the ways to think about this is that this is an expansion of the Hotline Project. We have a need, those of us coming out of religion, have a need to kind of talk through our issues. And this provides real life, real time, flesh and blood folks who provide a safe space to be able to ask those questions, ventilate a little bit, get some answers, have some compassion in, I know how you feel, I know what you're going through. And not only that, there's a light. There's a little bit of light at the end of this long, scary tunnel. So these are our local support groups. In addition to that, we are in the exploratory stage now of providing virtual support groups, online support groups with safe space, with time for resources for religion-specific individuals. In other words, the particular needs that I had, the particular issues that I encountered coming out of the Southern Baptist faith is different than the issues someone else is going to have coming out of the Mormon faith, or Islam, or Jehovah's Witness. So our support group project is going to extend to be able to give a space for those folks to come together and to talk and to work out those issues. Okay, so those are our 3 programs. Daryl did this as well, but I wasn't paying enough attention. If you have had anything to do with recovering from religion in the way of support, would you stand up? Whether you're a telephone agent, whether you are a donor, whether you're a contributor, whether you're a small group volunteer. Thank you. You can sit down. Thank you. Can you join me in thanking those people? So that leads me to my next thing. You know that the executive director of a nonprofit is not going to get up here and talk without asking you for something. And in staying with our theme of 3s, there are 3 things I'm going to ask you for. What's the first thing I'm going to ask you for? There you go. What's the second thing I'm going to ask you for? Volunteer. What's the third thing? Ooh, gotcha. Okay, so let's talk this through. Let's go back. The first one is to give. However your family manages its charitable giving, whether you have a big summit or whether someone just writes a check, however you do that after you have made your financial contribution to Oasis, to keep the lights on here, to keep the donuts coming here. If you would consider contributing to recovering from religion, let me tell you the unique nature of RFR is that we don't have a membership. We don't have membership dues. We don't generate that revenue stream. All of our efforts, all of our volunteer work is spent back in the community, helping folks move forward. So we don't have those resources that some of the other organizations have. We're dependent upon, we also don't put on a convention, and that's another potential revenue stream. So we are dependent upon folks like you who share our vision, who share our passion for being able to help folks as they're on this incredibly important journey. So keep that in mind. The next thing I'd like to ask is for you to volunteer. You guessed that one. Can you imagine how many folks are behind the scenes for an organization like this? We have hundreds of hotline hours that we have to fill a hotline, and now that we've added the live chat, those 2 things have to be different people. So we have a constant need for volunteers. We have a need for support, our support group volunteers to initiate and begin and monitor and lead those local regional support groups. The behind the scenes of recovering from religion, I say it's one of those things that you describe as a duck. It's nice and calm on the outside and paddling like hell underneath. So we have lots of activities going on. We're always looking for volunteers. Recoveringfromreligion.org, and this little volunteer button. Susie Box, who is our volunteer coordinator and a board member, and she would love to see your name pop up, so consider that. So the last thing I want to ask you for is to help us promote. We can't help folks if they don't know we're here. So in your circles, in your organizations, in your meetup groups, if you'll give us a shout out, if you'll just mention what the website is, in your social media, if you'll post the website, post a link, just give us a little, whoever's looking might have some help here. Any way that you can help us promote. That's doesn't take very much time, and it doesn't take any money. And that's a way that you can help recovering from religion and help us get the word out, to help those folks who are where we've been. I often say, one of the things that drew me to recovering from religion is that I wish it had been here when I was working out my issues. I wish I'd had access to the hotline. I wish I'd had access to the support groups. And now looking forward, we can say that we are all in a position where we're able to do that. I think now we have time for some questions and answers. I think I've given you a few minutes for that. I'm so grateful that I've been able to speak here today. If you don't have questions, I'm just going to run this slideshow of my kids again. So,
if you have a question, you just raise your hand and wait for a microphone. We want to make sure that the video gets your question.
I'm wondering, what is the reason for promoting?
What is the reason for promoting?
Yeah, because people who are religious promote their religion because they want, I guess, people to think the way they do because they think they have the answers. So what is your reason?
Okay, did everybody hear that? What's the reason for promoting? There are so many folks out there who, if they had access to a hotline like this, that they might just ask a question. I just want to ask a question. I'm in church, but I have a question about this. I don't understand it. Where do you go? You can go to your pastor. You can go to your Sunday school teacher. Where else do you go? I'm from the Southeast, and in the Southeast, I'll be real frank with you. When I made my journey, I probably did know a non-believer, but I didn't know that I knew a non-believer. And so promoting, what I mean by promote is let folks know that there is a place that they can go. There's a place they can go to ask their question. There's a place they can go to find a group of like-minded folks that they can come and ask those questions to. That's what I mean by promote. Thank you.
I was wondering how farming contributes to your post-religious world.
Say that again?
I wonder how farming contributes to your post-religious world.
My personal farming? Oh my goodness, my farm is my refuge, it's my sanctuary. I live a busy life, as Daryl said, I'm an attorney as well. And so the farm is my sanctuary, my refuge, the taking care of the animals and being out in the country and having a place. I'm also the leader of a small group, and having folks out and introducing the kids to the animals and seeing the chickens and petting the ducks and all those things. For me, that's how it fits into my worldview. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, great.
On a personal level, I imagine Tennessee is a lot more conservative socially, religiously than we are here. Would you care to talk about like some of the, mentioned it in the liner notes, your positive negatives coming out of it?
Sure. And you're absolutely right about that. Tennessee is a very religious place. My children went to, oops, we lose you? My children, am I moving too much? My children went to public high school, and when they were in high school, and as I said, their journey was when they were in high school, there was an issue that arose about why can't we do the school, the student body, the parents, the booster club, the football team, everybody wanted to do a prayer from the press box. It's a simple thing, right? Everybody agrees. Why can't we do a prayer from the press box? It's not a big deal. The boys are going to be playing out on the field. Everybody wants to do. And so then you have loudmouths who said, we can't do a prayer from the press box. Why can't we do that? And we worked through it, and there was a lot of animosity and a lot of struggle. And with a little bit of patience and a lot of teaching, we at least made progress to where they understood why you can't do a prayer from the press box. I think in the minds of religious people, it seems so straightforward. It seems like such a simple request. Prayer from the press box. The whole football team has voted. The whole student body has voted. And you have to walk them through, well, maybe not the whole student body voted. Maybe those folks who oppose you, they feel that sensation that everybody else agrees, and it's a terribly brave position to have to take to be able to go against that flow. So that, we at least got the conversation going, and there was no prayer from the press box. That's just one of the things that we encounter. When you meet someone in Tennessee, the question is always where do you go to church, not do you go to church. It is so ubiquitous, it is so assumed that when we have our meetups, we kind of call it, I don't know if there's children in here, we call it the bitching hour. When we first come together, we have to kind of get it out of our system. This is what happened to me at work. This is what happened to me at school. This is what happened to me in my neighborhood. And so it's such a prevalent form of lifestyle in Tennessee that having voices, just the presence of folks who don't think that way is sometimes enough to get someone over the hump of going, there are people who think like me. There are people who understand what I'm going through. And so does that answer your question?
All right. Take one more after Judy here.
I have a
handle all of
You noticed that. You were paying attention. I didn't mention that, did I? Well, the first is recognizing the elephant in the room. My marriage didn't survive the transition. My parents and my brothers are still religious people, and it causes them distress. It causes them great distress. When I told my mother, my sweet 80-year-old Southern Baptist mother, of my conclusion, in her despair, in Baptist doctrine, we have something called once saved, always saved. You can't reject your salvation. You can't disclaim your salvation. You're going to go to heaven. And all of my children, of course, when they were very young children, had all gone through their, what we call in the Baptist faith, their profession of faith, where they admitted their sins and accepted Jesus as their Savior. They were baptized. That's the piece that gave my mother some relief. It's so, in Baptist doctrine, this life is so temporary. And so while it's important, this is not the thing. The thing is the next thing. And so for her, I was throwing away all of the huge important part for just this little tiny part. But she had the assurance that the children nor I were going to be burning in hell. And so that was the piece that held her together. That's the piece that she still stands on. That's the piece that she still claims to give her peace. My dad and brothers, in some degree, yeah, we're Southerners, and we know how to kind of rise above that. We can be chatty, and we can be shallow, and we can be close, and we can be friendly, and we don't talk about it because they don't understand it. They're very angry. Do you find that? Don't you find that sometimes that's the go-to emotion with folks is immediate defensiveness and immediate anger? And that's where my family is. But thank you for asking that.
Thank you for coming today. So you talked about recovering from religion, and I make a distinction between religion and spirituality because, well, you know, religion and people for their own reasons and doctrines and stuff. So how does your organization work with or interact with people who, I believe in a higher power. So how does that fit into what you're doing?
Sure, it fits in beautifully. There's not a thing wrong. All of us own that. All of us own our own approach to how we're going to manage how we think the universe functions. The hotline helps folks with what the traditional trappings of leaving a religion leaves behind. How do I deal with the fact, am I going to burn in hell? How do I deal with the fact that my spouse is not going to understand this? How do I deal with the fact that my friends, my support group, my whole community's church, and I don't share the same belief anymore? And so, and as I said, the hotline is not, it's not deconversion, and neither are the support groups, the local support groups. They're a place for you to be able to come and say those words and say, this is where I am. This is where I am in my journey. I don't think I believe kind of the Bible things. I don't know that I believe this doctrine, but I'm holding on to this. It's perfectly fine. That's where you are in the journey, and that's fine. And I don't think anybody in recovering from religion would discount that experience for you or would say, no, you're not doing it right. Here's the right way to do that. Did that answer that question? I am so grateful for having been here today. You all have been wonderful. I've enjoyed meeting you all, and I look forward to meeting you some more. Are we?
But no, yeah, we need to, for time's sake, if you didn't have an opportunity to ask Gayle a question,
Sure.
she is available afterward, and so we'd encourage you to find her and ask her. Let's give her a big